Can't even believe it.
Thank you,
Can't
John.
even believe it.
Sunday, December 8th, 2024 represents a massive pressure release. This is decades of tension that's finally coming to this explosive head, and it started something of a culture war between its two sides. Extreme emotions were probably the only thing the Yankees and Mets fans got to experience together this past weekend. It was the highest of highs for one side of the aisle, and something closer to a funeral for the other. The New York Mets took down the great New York Yankees and signed 26-year-old Juan Soto for the next 15 years. What's now the largest contract in professional sports has already sent shockwaves across New York City and beyond. This is going to change New York sports, it's going to raise the bar for player salaries, and it's going to reshape the future of baseball in Queens. One of my favorite memories growing up as a Mets fan with my dad, who also raised me a Mets fan, he used to download the 1986 World Series games for the Mets on an iPod. So sometimes when we were camping and we got bored, we would both take one earphone and we would watch the 1986 World Series Mets play against the Boston Red Sox on a little iPod screen. Moments, memories like that, getting to share that with your loved ones. My son is going to get to grow up watching Juan Soto with the Mets, Francisco Lindor with the Mets, wanting to be like these guys. And this is the kind of moment that I'm going to be telling my kids about years into the future. This is really a convergence in the history of New York's two baseball teams. It really is hard to understate exactly what this move symbolizes. It's only been 2 days. I've already seen the differences in the conversations around these two teams when I'm talking with my friends, people I work with. And what it means to me is only half of what it means to the generations who've come before me, who've passed their love for this team down the line.
At the same time, it clearly meant a lot. He brought me back to YouTube. He's only a day into being a Met, and he's already making miracles happen.
This was an all-out war between the Yankees and the Mets. It's really the first of its kind to this extent. This was Steve Cohen and Hal Steinbrenner, the vessels for their two respective fan bases, just completely going at it in a total all-out war, toe-to-toe over this Yankee superstar who had literally just a couple months before led them to their first pennant in 15 years in dramatic fashion, with bid prices soaring higher than any contract ever signed in professional sports. The stakes literally could not have been higher.
Juan Soto to the Mets. 15 years, $765 million. No!
This was a complete dogfight over a player who otherwise would have been on track to enter Cooperstown in pinstripes. And all it took to stop it was a filthy rich Mets superfan who finally beat the Yankees. I'd say without all this context there, you could probably argue the Francisco Lindor signing a couple years ago was equally as symbolic for this team. But that high-stakes context is reality, and forget about Mike Piazza, this is the most important transaction in the history of the New York Mets. There are going to be players in this offseason that decide that they want to come play with Francisco Lindor and Juan Soto. There's going to be future players who are going to do the same, especially after they see an even better on-field product in 25 because of it. That cycle is going to continue over time, and that's a positive feedback loop that's going to continue helping the Mets rebrand Queens as a destination landing spot for baseball talent. As massive as this move was, it was just another domino to fall in this slow redistribution of power that we've seen in New York baseball, and that's something that Steve Cohen said was a goal of his to try and get started all the way back in his first press conference. The Yankees just, honestly, they haven't been the Yankees in my lifetime. I've never in my life gotten to see the New York Yankees be this year-to-year powerhouse dynasty that I was raised to think that they were. And I think Steve Cohen kind of knew that when he bought the team. He kind of knew that there was that vacuum that was there. And slowly but surely, as he's rebuilt this franchise, I think he's been waiting for that historic power play move to say, here are the Mets. It's just not a one-team city anymore. This signing is just that next domino that can be traced back, along with this team's magical 2024 run in this past year, to the Lindor deal in 2020, and the same with all future Mets news. It can all be tied back to the true nexus point for this franchise, and that's the ownership change in 2020. Now starting in 2025, I cannot believe I'm saying this, Juan Soto is going to be an orange and blue for the next 15 years.
They're going to make him do this till he's 90.
The Mets probably just put a freaking torch to the New York sports culture war right now, but at the same time, this team is far from complete, and thankfully Steve Cohen and team president David Stearns know that. Pitching is desperately needed here. They could probably use another bat or two to round out 5 to 9 in that lineup. We really can't forget where the Mets were just a few months ago. Before Grimace, before the Latin pop star, the Costco boy, all the meme-worthy devil magic that somehow brought them from 0-5 to OMG. This team needs to bring back some pieces. Sean Manaea, Pete Alonso would be great. They need to add some pieces. They've still got the Dodgers they've got to deal with every year. They've still got the Phillies and the Braves in their own division. But the good news is that they are the farthest thing from done I have ever seen. They've already got their sights set on other top-of-the-market talent. They're already reportedly very aggressive in the pitching market. Guys like Roki Sasaki. I wouldn't be surprised if a guy like Walker Buehler is on the radar too. And just to put this into context, the Mets had baseball's highest payroll last year. They have so much money coming off of the books in 25. Even with Soto's historic $51 million that they're going to be paying him, they've got something north of $100 million to spend on players this offseason, and that's just to match their total number from last year. They could spend money on 2 Oakland A's rosters worth of players they can acquire just to get back to the number they were at. I have not seen anyone this not done since Kobe in 09.
Job's not finished. Job finished? I don't think so.
Now, the Mets didn't completely blow away the Yankees to get Soto either. Just $5 million a year in guaranteed salary separated the Mets offer with the Yankees. Juan Soto chose to spend the next 15 years of his life and probably honestly the rest of his career playing for this team. A few days ago, myself, the world, probably honestly Steve Cohen too, would have probably all bet on Juan Soto retiring and going to the Hall of Fame as a New York Yankee. Just a couple days later, now we're all imagining the complete reverse, and Juan Soto going to the Hall of Fame as a Met. That is just an absolutely insane turnaround. I'm sure Mets and Yankees fans alike can tell you that as long as these teams have been around, that's just never happened on a scale like this before. This is the kind of move that generations of Mets fans have dreamed of forever, and I have a lot of respect for the Yankees, but I'm not gonna lie, this feels pretty nice. The Mets front office sold the vision, they sold the perks, they sold that, unique relationship between owner and player, which is something that Alex Cohen deserves a lot of credit for. They sold the commitment to supporting the team financially, they've shown the improved front office, the player development, and everything in between. I understand why a team's past could be attractive to players, I'm not denying that, especially one that's as historic and successful as the most successful team in the history of ever, which is the Yankees. But it's hard to think that a team's history matters as much as its ability to repeat it. The Yankees are a year removed from missing the playoffs in an expanded playoff year. They haven't beat a non-American League Central team in the playoffs since 2012. They didn't even bother meeting with Bryce Harper when he was a free agent. All I'm saying is I'm not betting on the Yankees to win a World Series in 2025 because of something that Mickey Mantle did in the 1960s or something that Alex Rodriguez did in the early 2000s. The Yankees are gonna win a World Series at some point. Maybe they win it next year, maybe they win a couple in the next 10, but the Yankees just have not been the Yankees that I have heard legends about. And when you look at the future outlook of both New York teams, I think it's hard to pitch that the future of baseball in the Bronx is brighter than the future of baseball in Queens. I know that's going to offend some people, and I think as long as this ownership in particular continues doing what it's doing for the Mets brand, I think that statement's going to hold. Maybe this ends up being the catalyst that makes the Yankees realize that their hegemony in baseball just isn't what it was. And I'm hoping that this starts an era of just all-out competition in New York baseball that we've never really seen before. I, for one, think that's freaking awesome, and I am just counting down the days to see how electric this Subway Series is next year. I'll tip my hat to the Yankees, as I've done on this channel before. I was not expecting to see them go toe-to-toe with Steve for this long, especially at those numbers. Credit also due to every team who stayed competitive with them both up to the end. If you think about it this way, the only thing separating a team like the Blue Jays getting Juan Soto at a price tag of $700 million is just Soto deciding to take the Mets offer. You really got to respect the effort and the commitment there by those front offices. Just be careful, because now you've shown your cards and your fan bases are going to see that price tag and they're going to want you to spend it elsewhere. At the end of the day, though, only one fan base is celebrating right now, and that's the guys who got Juan Soto. What this means for the fan base of a team that was so bad for so long, and you can infer why that was the case if you've seen any of the videos I've made on this team over the years in this whole saga. What it meant for my dad, who's watched this team for over 50 years, my friends who called me as soon as Soto signed, and to just so many people across this fandom. Moments like these really are just such good reminders of the ultimate upside of being a sports fan. If you've heard any Mets fans say that this is an end to Lol Mets. Lol Mets doesn't end overnight, in my opinion. I think it happens when Mets fans just wake up one day and they don't even think about it. Some haven't gotten there yet. I think that's a normal response to PTSD. But for me, I stopped thinking about it a while ago. The Lindor contract, the Scherzer and Verlander contracts, playoff appearances in 2 of the last 3 years, the completely revamped front office, and now the Soto signing. The rust that built up for decades is almost fully off this team. I don't think the Juan Soto signing ended Lol Mets, but I do think it was the final straw in the string of moves over the years that did. If it wasn't clear to anyone before, I think it should be now. If the Mets are an interested party in one of the free agents that your team is looking for, then there is no easy path for your team to get them.
Was that what you were this for years?
That was the case before based on money alone, but as these dominoes keep falling, as the on-field product gets incrementally better because of that, as the off-field management of this franchise gets better, the more this loop feeds itself, the more that's true. I can't think of any paradigm-shifting, fan-base dynamic-shattering event on this grand a scale in sports in my lifetime than this signing. In sports' biggest market involving sports' most historic franchise, the victor being the one who used to be the little brother of New York, just 4 years removed from a cancerous, scandal-ridden ownership group, I don't think it's possible to feel more joy than Mets fans as they watch their team hand out as disgustingly big a contract as this to maybe the most talented hitter in the sport, in as symbolic a way as what's happened here with Steve Cohen, Juan Soto, and the New York Mets. For the fans of the New York Mets, keep on celebrating, and please don't ever stop. And to fans of every other team in the league, I'll leave it at this. If your favorite team happens to be shooting for the stars, just pray that the New York Mets aren't outside stargazing that night.
Sessions presents, featuring such standards as
Everybody look at the snow in the yard.
And Who Could Forget,
I brought these gifts for you, they're up in my bum.
and everyone's favorite,
La 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 la, la 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 la, look at the bells, look at the bells. Holy crap, here comes Jesus, and he doesn't look too happy. Merry Christmas, everyone.